All right, welcome to Storytime. My name is Rosemary, and today I'm here with a very special guest. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Domich-Leese. I'm the owner of Shenlong Illuminae Healing Center. I've been a healer for 24 years, psychic medium. I give channeled messages. I do healings. I'm also a Tao Hands practitioner. I'm working on my coaching certification currently as well. And I do help people transform the negative messages in their fields to positive. I also do a lot of work directly with the dragons and helping to clear up the miscommunications with the misconceptions about dragons.
That sounds like an awesome subject to. Okay, so first off, I'd like to ask, how have you come into working with the energy and dragons, like your awakening process, when you first started to realize that you had these abilities?
When I first started, I grew up in a family of healers and psychic mediums. And so, I knew from a young age that I really wasn't like everybody else. I was seeing ghosts from the age of 5, communicating with them. So I really, it was really kind of developed within my family. It just kind of, at a certain age, it awakened. And having the experiences that I went through, the firewalks and the ghost hunts, we just did a whole lot of things. And I'm also Native American and I'm Irish, so we have, both worlds. And so for me, what really started me out on my own journey was I had an awakening, and then I wanted to get into doing the Moonier key rites, which are the rites of the initiation of the shaman. And so I did those, and it works. I learned all about the chakras at that point, and you get different archetypes that go in there, and then you become like a steward for the earth, and it really it transforms you. And so I started there, and then from there I went to Reiki, and I've always been wanting to learn. I had been at a Native American sweat lodge. I was 16 years old when I realized for the first time that I was 100% not like anybody else, and tried to find my tribe. I mean, I was at a sweat lodge, and I would see like deers and the bears, and I was speaking to one of the elders that were there, and I said, wow, look, there's a bear and a deer. And I'm like, oh, that's a fairy. And I was like, do you see that? She's like, yeah, I do. And they said that with the sweat lodges, a lot of their spirit animals will come through. And it's just unusual for people to actually be able to see those things. So, I really started doing a lot of practices and education and really, delving deep into the spirit world even more. At that point, I had met a man named Richard, and he told me that I had one foot on the other side, and I walked the bridge between both worlds. So, I would always be with spirits and ghosts and, messages and helping to heal and serve humanity. So, I didn't really meet the dragons until 2011. I worked with the fairies and the crystals and the angels, and I've gone on some some very interesting things. We used to track negative entities and help them to cross over to the light, and I've been on demon hunts, actually. It was I was like, okay, this is weird, I don't really believe this, but I'm like, okay, well, I feel this really dark energy here. And and then I was actually with an evangelical priest, and I did a lot of work with him, tracking and locating it and sending it wherever it needs to go. But from a young age, my mom even thought it was weird. I mean, I was born in 75. And people were just always drawn to me, and they would tell me their whole life story. So that's where I really knew, even at that age, like I'm here at like 6 years old standing by the registers, and this lady's like, hi, how are you? And my mom was like, stranger danger. But
Yes.
And so she was always with me. But then we realized like people are just drawn in with me and tell me the whole life stories. And it's really great because it presents a tremendous opportunity to help people heal, even if you only have them for those few seconds, sending them with light and positivity and just hearing them. Because mostly, what I learned being a healer is people, don't have, they want to be heard and validated. And they don't have, a lot of them don't have a very good support system or people that understand, because these are not your basic run-of-the-mill topics about balancing your checkbook and, hey, I have a check engine light.
Yeah.
This is like, I'm seeing ghosts, I'm hearing voices, I saw a fairy, am I crazy? There's a big dragon in my yard. And so, just starting from there and letting them realize that there's nothing wrong with you. And I had really good teachers. So I started in 2011. I was with a light worker and empath support group, and I was an admin with them. And so I started there and met a lot of people, and we did a lot of like astral traveling and, healing the earth that way as a group. Mm-hmm. So from there, I actually, in 2011, I was in my living room and it was dark. There was a little bit of light and I saw this black smoke come into the room. I'm like, oh my gosh, is there a fire? And I'm looking around and checking everything, because I always check the logical, mm-hmm. And I'm like, there's nothing. And it manifested into a 6-foot dragon, black one. And I was like, okay, that was crazy. And so I saw him and then, I started working with him. And that was really my first forte into the world. And then I learned about, different essences and things that, are part of you. And so I went through and I found a group that, are basically all dragon essence, dragon souls. I know those are like newer concepts to people, but, you can have fairy, you can have angel, you can have, as part of your energy field, essence, whatever you want to call it. And so, I always knew that that's what I did. And I had some readings done. And I'm very big into past lives. And I had readings done saying I used to protect the dragons in the, back in the old days and facilitate towns for them to go to where it was safe, because not everybody was afraid of dragons. I mean, if you have this big, you have this big, physical dragon in your town, well, you're not ever going to have to worry about enemies invading, and you got it hidden up in the mountains. So and so I really did a lot of education and learning and working with the dragons. And then from there, I became a Tao Hands practitioner because, I did the Reiki master and I became a Tao Hands practitioner, a certified one. And so, that's where I really learned about the 5 elements, and that, if you have like say your wood element is associated with your liver as the yin organ and the yang is the gallbladder, and that it's connected to your tendons, your nails, your eyes, and the emotion for that is your anger. So I learned a lot about those and different practices, and what really helped me a lot was learning about the forgiveness practices and doing them. And so I grew from there and started helping out in different groups, and it's been a really, really amazing journey because I've helped out a lot of people, and I've met people that were lost or just needed a little bit of help. I do free healings as well. The other thing that I do, which is no one's doing right now, I have custom made at the time of order Reiki and light healing infused soaps. So, when they say, oh, I have, let's say, for example, you're like, Jen, I have anxiety. And so, you're going to pick out the mold. So let's say you'll pick out the bee mold. I have fragrances that are a coconut orchid, peach mango, and a lavender. So you pick out the mold that you want. You pick out the scent that you want. And if you want some colors mixed in, I can do like the colors, like the swirls, red, blue, yellow. It's really neat. And so each step of the way, and as I'm making the soap, the crystals, the essential that's going into it is Reiki blessed and light and blessed for that mission. So, and it's like a goat's milk kind of base for this soap. That's awesome. So once they get that, as they're using the soap, once it's done, those crystals you can stick in a little bag and they have that to take with them. And it's also blessed for that condition of anxiety. And I've had pretty good results. I mean, I'm actually going to be branching out and doing Reiki infused lip balms as well, like the chapsticks.
Oh, wow. That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. But, one of the biggest misconceptions, because I do channel a lot of entities. I mean, I've talked to God, Buddha, Kuan Yin, whoever. Like, what I like to do is I'll do a call with someone and we talk about whatever they would like the healing for. So we kind of come up with a plan and of what we're going to do. So in that, I could be doing, the crystal healings. It could be, the card readings. It could be, and definitely a channeled message will come through for that person. And what I do is we use Dragon Balls. So, and I'll explain about the dragons real quick so you kind of understand what the Dragon Balls do. Mm-hmm. So one of the misconceptions, I mean, dragons are pure light beings. They're healers and energy workers. They've always been a champion of humans and other sentient beings that have the gifts. I mean, they're here to inspire, encourage, and strengthen you. I mean, they can't, force you to do anything you don't want to do. They can only suggest and present tools for you to use. Now, the dragons have these energetic strands that they release at all times. And these energy strands, we actually use those in our groups to create energy orbs to heal, protract, ground, center, focus. And we do those in our groups and we form them and then we send them out with all the other tools that we have to help heal humanity. So we'll, one time we might focus on, let's say, the ocean, like a Pacific Ocean, or, we see something going on the earth and we send out and, we'll send peace, love, harmony into these balls and whatever else and send them out. So we do that, and you can use these orbs in conjunction with any other tools we have. And, one of the biggest misconceptions that the dragons get upset about, and they constantly are talking to us, this is not true. They say that a lot of people say, oh, dragons have killed and harmed humans and they eat them. And so, they have never intentionally harmed a human unless there was no other options. And the ones that they harmed were so, they did it to defend themselves. So there was no other options. They have even said they'll kind of do whatever they can to even get that person away without harming them. But the ones that really try to do significant harm were so far on the dark side. They tried everything to bring them back to the light, and it just wasn't possible. Yes. It's a matter of free will, so you can't force someone to come back to the light. And they've never eaten a person. In fact, they find us horrible to taste. They're like, ew. One dragon I worked with is said I licked a person and it was gross. And they're here energetically. Another misconception they have is they can manifest as having a physical body, but they're here energetically through the earth and this realms. They don't have physical bodies in this plane of existence. Other ones they do, where the magic is still there and they live there physically, but they can send their energy into our plane to assist us, guide us, protect us. Because, a lot of people are starting to see a lot more dragon sightings now, and they're starting to kind of manifest and people are kind of seeing them. Oh no, you're fine. And they're seeing them, because they're waking up. They're the ones that have been the deep ones that have been down to sleep for a while. Everybody's waking up because of the way to try to help save humanity and the planet. So
yeah,
that's my
balance back. Yeah, I
absolutely.
Totally, and yes, I totally get it, and have worked. I've seen dragons, work with dragons. So I do understand that completely. So when you do that, when you do with the energy orbs from the dragons, it's more of to bring that balance back to an area?
When we do, it can be anything. When we do it as a group, we do it for people that have granted permission. So, in an area so let's say that as an example, Chernobyl, and all those people passed away and there were some that were left with, horrible disfigurations and chemical burns and things. We can form these balls to send peace and comfort and energy and love and light and transformation, healing if if possible. And we open these things up and form these balls and put in there what's appropriate for that person or place. You know, if there's a wildfire, we will, put in like love, peace, balance, regrowth, just different essences. Now we do that as a group. We do that, for our teammates. Now, when I work personally one-on-one, there is always 3 or more dragons present. So, when I do my healings, I ask them, do I have permission, to send you this healing for anxiety? And I use once they have given that permission, the dragons are in. They're getting dragon balls, they're getting dragon energy, they're getting, the fairy realm, the angel realm. So it's everything I have at my disposal, and I even do the Ibitsu calligraphy. It's the Tao calligraphy. So yeah, I trace with that as well, and that's another amazing tool that is only available to the Tao. If you're a certified Tao hands practitioner, we have that in our community, but they do release those in the books and things with Master Sha. And so, people can trace those, but these are like portals of light and, access to the Buddhas and the saints and the, beings of light. When you're tracing, you're adding that extra huge, tremendous boost to help.
Yeah.
And I let them know, like, one of the biggest things, I teach them the invocations once we have the permission, we do the invocations. I teach them what to say to protect themselves while they're doing everything. And then I actually guide them on a forgiveness practice. I usually send out a video. And I have one on a deep forgiveness practice from the teacher that Mr. Paul. That's Master Paul. He's one of the Tao Hands teachers, and he's really, really good. And he has this huge, deep forgiveness practice. And I tell people, I've commonly come across clients that I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to forgive them. And I said, well, here's this forgiveness practice, but you don't ever have to talk to them. You can call in their soul, and, the souls are the boss. Mm-hmm. The soul will take the message back to their human. Yeah. And so you never have to do that. And a lot of people, I never force anything on them. I say, here's this practice. It works tremendously. I've been through massive amounts of trauma, grief, anxiety, sadness, massive amounts of death in my life. And, you can self-clear your karma by doing these forgiveness practices, a good amount of it.
Yeah.
And when you're clearing your karma, and when you're clearing your karma and you're working on clearing your energy field, a lot of the diseases that you have go away.
Yeah, it's a disease. Some of it is the way we talk about it is like an anchor. So you're cutting those anchors off of you. And for me, it's more like it's kind of like a shadow. So when you shine a light on something and you see a shadow, that is something that's anchored inside of you, sometimes onto a chakra. For me, it looks like a tangled little line. So I get it. And then you're just kind of, okay, it's okay to release this. And sometimes there's that emotional release from it as well when you're doing that healing process. But totally get
it. It's amazing, though. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And doing a lot of talking. I do, like I said, I do a lot of work. I just hold space for them when they come in, and we talk about what it is that they need, and we develop a plan. So, I can work with them on any condition that they have. I'm getting ready to launch here soon a one-on-one program. It's going to be a 4-week. So it's a 1 month, 3 month, and 6 months, and it's a one-on-one pack. So that way they're going to get coaching. They're going to get so many different things. I combine, and each session may be different. We're going to be talking about whatever their issues are and working on changing the mindsets, doing I'll be doing the tracing with them, the forgiveness, the crystals, just everything and anything that comes in, and the channeling. Like, if you see, mine is different. I mean, I've been a psychic medium, which, like the old school psychic medium where they want to walk in and talk, and I don't allow that. So, it's just too much of a danger, because when you're having that, you have to one of the souls steps out, you step out, the other one steps in, and so because 2 souls can't be in the same body at the same time, so, and you're a lot of them are, well, the rules are they're supposed to be a social I don't know the word, like an agreement between both souls that they'll step out. But,
Yep.
there's a temptation to want to stay in that body, and like, nope. And I've seen a lot of the mediums that's happened to, that had that battle to come back, and I was like, no. So I allow, I actually have a spiritual kind of address book, and they'll come and they'll say, okay, what's your name, what would you do, and what would you like to do? And my channeled readings, you'll go, like, if you go to some of the in-person things, for lack of time, you have a psychic that's reading the room, and they may have 20-30 people, and you may get a 3 to 5 minute reading if you're lucky, due to time restraints, because they have to hit everybody that they possibly can, because when you're doing that, you get a whole room of people wanting to talk ghosts.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, and you got to kind of pick and choose. And the good thing about the way that I do this is, when I'm doing the one-on-one, they're going to get those messages, those channel messages. And, it could be like, let's say Kuan Yin is talking. So anybody that I get to come in, it's at least 5 minutes, if not longer. Sometimes I've actually given them channeled messages where they don't stop talking for 30 minutes. So it's really, I just let them come and, whatever they want to say to me. And as a healer, in the early stages, and this is for any healer out there, just really be confident in yourself, your message, believe in yourself, have faith in yourself, and just, I know a lot of people that are giving these channels messages, and I was like this the same way before too, that, oh, well, what if it doesn't resonate with them, this message, or what if, they don't agree with this message, or they don't know this person, and what I learned, the biggest lesson and advice I can give is, we're just the messengers to give the messages. Trust the message, as long as it's not harmful or hateful, then, it's just, check that filter before you send that out, and just do it. Because, we're not responsible for how people receive us.
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing. And, I know a lot of people that I've worked with that were, that I've mentored, that were willing to give up. We're like, I'm going to give up, these messages aren't. And so I work with them on open their spiritual channels more, but, just really trusting themselves. Just give the message, because down the road, it's going to click somewhere.
Yes.
Or maybe they weren't ready to hear what you had to say, and their minds were closed, which is okay, because they're asking a lot for people to have faith in what you're doing, and the people that don't have that understanding, or they're just new. So, that's why I try to explain a little bit about everything before we do anything. And that's the biggest thing, is like, trusting the message and just giving it. And, I found and the other thing, as a healer too, you may do this tremendous healing. You feel the energy like going through your body, and, going to this person, and that it went. You instruct them on how to be open to receive, what to say, and then, to sever the connections when they're done. And you're talking to them like, I didn't feel it. And, I've also worked with healers, like, they're saying, we didn't feel it. Oh, no, it must not be good. I said, no, it's not that you're not good. They just might not. I said, any healing you send, if they accept it, they're going to receive, and it's going to work on a spiritual, a cellular, physical level. They're going to get what they need and what their body can handle at that time. So just let them know, you did receive. You may not, and some people just, have to work on sensitivities, because, some people are just like, wow, I felt the tingling and this and that, and, and then I've had other healers that I worked with that have come to me, have said, well, I did this healing for this person, and I really got, like the one that I did for a friend of mine. I'll give you an example. He had really bad shoulder pain, and he was really hurting, and I was doing the healing for him, and my right wrist started hurting, and it was hurting really bad. And he, that to me is an indicator of something. And I let him know, I said, even though your shoulder's hurting, there's a problem with your right wrist, because the area that it often, I shouldn't say often, but sometimes that area that's hurting isn't the source of the problem.
Right. It's all tied together in a different space, like it's tangled on a different string. I get it. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I worked with him on that and the wrist, and then he felt better. So, it's just, and I'm also a medical intuitive. So I do soul operations as well. So if I see anything that comes through, I will go ahead and just do the soul operation, and then I let the person know like what I see, and and then we fill the space with light and finish up. And so there is also potential that they'll get that soul operation in the healing that I do.
Awesome.
Because I had a woman that I worked with a long, long time ago, and I asked, in the beginning, I asked them not to tell me anything, and so I had an impression, and I told her, I said, well, what I'm seeing with you right now, I said, your hands are hot, your feet are hot, but it's actually your uterus, your womb, ovaries, everything. And, I said, but it's really strange. I see it going away. So I've never seen it like that. Like the uterus, the ovaries, like everything, kind of like going away.
Wow.
And, we did the healing, and she's, I checked in with her. She said she felt really, really good. She said, but it's funny. I said, what? She said, I'm going next week for a full hysterectomy.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, wow. And I told her, I said, just a lot of people aren't aware of this. Just still work with, doing your practices with the organs that are associated with that. Because even though you don't have your, whatever it is, the cervix, the ovaries, or your, a kidney or whatever it is, if you don't have that, you still have that spiritual organ there.
Yes.
It doesn't, there's just, everything has a soul.
Right.
And so you still have that spiritual organ there.
Yeah, it's like a celestial organ. It's going to be, as light beings, I mean, it's in light, so it still exists.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have a question. In this now that we're in, because we're seeing all these people awaken, what is the biggest thing, like message you can give for people who are newly awakening?
Well, what I would suggest is just reach out, start looking into new modalities, I think the biggest thing I would do is, and I've seen a lot of people that are stepping into, that are awakening, really try to verify your sources of what you're doing, because there are so many people out there that do scams and are giving false messages. Just really, check your guidance, your intuition, your gut, and then try to do a little bit of research with when you're looking into someone that's going to help you, what they can offer you. There's really good people that do entity removal and curses, and that's like one of the biggest areas that people can get scammed in. So just be really careful with that, because I know I've personally had someone reach out to me directly and didn't even talk to me, like, oh, you have this curse, and if you pay me $100, we can remove it. So, just to be really careful with anyone that you work with, if they are not listening to what you have to say, and they're just like, oh, I just got this feeling. I mean, we all get these feelings, but there's just should be a different way about it. You want to talk to them, you want to get on that call with them or that text, or and find out what is it they need help with.
Right.
Guide them to them, and then towards the end, then you work out whatever the price is. That's and even exchange for you and the services that you do. But I would just and the first thing I think I would encourage them to do is to look for their tribe, people that are like-minded, because when you're waking up, it can be a shock. For me, I luckily grew up in a very strong healing family, psychics, healers, mediums, so I was so super blessed to come into that family, because other people I know that woke up and were looking around, like they started seeing ghosts. They started seeing like, fairies and angels. They were hearing voices, that were guiding them. And they would tell their family members, and they ended up in a psych ward, but there was nothing wrong with them. They were just, hearing the messages of spirit. These messages weren't harmful. They were guiding them on what to do, and, how to realize they had to support and awaken. So, I think the biggest advice I could give to somebody is try to find your tribe. Go online, try to find people that are like-minded. I mean, you can, like search that on Facebook, find, whatever group. So if you're interested in, some people wake up and like, oh, I can heal with crystals. Look for those groups of people online. You will find them. Try to find your community. People, the biggest thing is when you are waking up is to be surrounded with people that understand your path, that have been there, or and can guide you to find a teacher, find a mentor, find a friend. Start looking for different communities. What I did when I woke up, I started looking for people that were doing Reiki. And even though I didn't know a whole lot at the time, I just started looking for Reiki shares and Reiki communities. And if there was any like like I like the Buddhist things as well. So if there was any like sing, because some of them do like the singing bowls and the chanting, and something that feels good for you, just, I mean, it can be lonely at first. But when you're waking up, it's like I said, it's a shock for me. Some it's little, other ones it's like you've been taught this your whole life to see things a certain way. And then you wake up and you have your awakening and you're hearing things and you're seeing ghosts or you might be seeing the fairy realm or angels or, and you wake up and have these abilities, and like I said, you want to find a tribe, people that can help you, and then a teacher, someone who can help you develop these abilities, where you're accepted and you're loved, because, most of the communities that the healers are the earth, spirit, whoever you believe in puts us into, and I found this true my entire life, is we're put into places that are devoid of a lot of spiritual activity. I ended up in, when I first came up here, I ended up in a very small closed mine town, and it was all, they were not accepting of any of that, and they have these, they're still burning like there's like these scarecrows of the football team in town, and they're burning them out in the field, and they're like, oh yeah, talk about spiritual things. I'm like, nope. I mean, I found my ways in around, and but what was interesting is connecting in, and I actually found a star seed in this town, and he ended up actually his other thing is he was an evangelical minister.
Oh, wow.
And so he and I connected. He's like, oh, do you know that you're this? And read this book about this. I was like, really? He's like, oh, yeah. And so, he was great. And so, you'll find if you accept things and really just keep your mind open. Because, when I started, I used to like, oh, weird. They're seeing dragons, they're weird, And I was like, that's just not true. And intergalactic beings, what? There's something wrong with that person. And, because my mind, I was like, this is your mind. Like, it wasn't that I was being judgmental. It's just like your mind is like, there's this stuff out here. And the things that they teach you in school and in colleges and in the world, they're like, it's not real. And even, like I said, I knew ghosts and spirits and angels, but, taking that leap to faith to like a galactic council and the brotherhoods and sisterhoods of light, I'm like, that's strange. But then as I went along, I actually had experiences with all of them, with galactic beings, with angels, with the galactic brotherhood and sisterhood of light. And, so I've actually, I learned that in my dream time, I've actually had because here's the funny thing. In 2011, I had another, like a very tremendous, like second awakening, and I stopped dreaming.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't dream anymore. And I would sleep, but I wouldn't dream. And then I started noticing like the ghosts, the spirits, the angels and everything like that. They would come there and give the messages. And because I was scared to death, because I was okay with the dragon, but, the other things that came, like their appearances were really scary.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, whoa, okay. So they decided to kind of stay there for the longest time. And, but now it's like I see all kinds of stuff, and I've had to put protections around my place, but they the aliens, I don't really see a whole lot, but there was one here that I was laying in bed and I had seen, and I don't normally see them. But sometimes they think they're funny. And I was in my room and I was laying there and I was wide awake. And, my dog started making this weird growling. And I just like saw a shadow. It looked like, arms hanging down from the ceiling. I'm like, okay, and I always, I still have that scientist side of my brain. Like, let's look for something logical. And I'm looking, I'm like, well, there's no shadows or nothing. And I look up and I see there was definitely some kind of alien there with its legs up against my wall, and it was gigantic and bent in half, and its arms were hanging. It was just looking at me, smiling, and it just like touched my head. And it kept touching my third eye and touching my third eye. I was like, and then it would smile at me, and I was like, okay, I'm losing my mind. But it was playing a game. I was like, you're not funny. And it laughed at me, so, and just like, I think, that's the other misconception. I haven't had a whole lot of experience with aliens, just like I said, my best advice is be open, be careful, find your tribe and just open your mind because, we have such unlimited amount of abilities that we can do. You'll start seeing the beings that want to talk to you, because as we waken up, we're healing ourselves. And then in turn, it heals the next person and we're able to reach out. There might be, and I actually did encounter this not too long ago, someone who had a major spiritual awakening and their family kind of kicked them out because he just started talking about aliens and angels and portals and, all these things. And they're like, he's crazy. And he would just give these messages and they were right, but it would scare the family. So he ended up, being very suicidal. And so I was able to help him work through that, find the tribes and get him, to realize that, and when you have an amazing heart and a big heart, like all of the healers do, you want to heal and you want to save humanity. And that's what we're here to do. The earth, humanity, the animals. And so, and especially if you're an empath and you're really super sensitive, I am as well, and you're trying to help heal somebody and, and you have a message, even if it's just look, I have this message for you. And they just don't receive it, or like, you're crazy. And, you really know they need this message and you do your best to get it to them, but they don't want to see it. Yeah. And they're not ready. Mm-hmm.
What do you think about, okay, so, because we're in this, I know a lot of people talk about 3D and 5D, and I've always said that 5D is, your heart space, home. So you're bringing it here. What do you think about, again, the old paradigms, the old systematic approaches that we have with, again, you see television programs and such, that kind of approach to society as opposed to this free, like we're awakening and we're healing. I'm just looking at what would you suggest for that, because I feel like we're both lover and warriors. We're supposed to be like, no, this old way doesn't quite work. However, again, free will, I'm not able to force somebody out of that what they're comfortable with. How do you see that 3D, 5D shift in perception?
Well, what I personally believe and what I've seen, and talking with the angels and the everybody that I've spoken with, is a shift is going on in the earth. It's like that's why the earth is going through so much right now, because all of the old paradigms and all the old 3D, because they, a lot of people that I believe that I talk with are like, the earth is now like 5D, 7D, it's just going higher and higher. And that's like all the war and all the things that had happened over the entire history of this planet. Everything's it's come up because this is like the year of, I think it's, I'm not mistaken, it's, I cannot remember. It's like 15 years or 1,000 years. I'll have to look that up. But, we're in this age where, everything goes through cycles, and now we're in the rebirth. And so, you're seeing more hurricanes or tornadoes, and it's just the earth kind of pulling up all this darkness and letting it out. You're seeing it in government. You're seeing shifts in everything. So the old ways aren't working for anybody. Right. And that's why you're seeing so many people. I mean, we have, everyone that has decided to come here, there are the sleepers, is what they kind of call them. And there's just, all these energetic upgrades coming to the planet at pretty much every other day, and they're getting hit with it. And more people, it's, waking them up. It's
Yes.
like flipping a switch because, and it's eradicating the darker, patterns and the things that were there. And everybody's like, we're falling apart. We're going in a bad way. And I said, no, we're wakening up. And, it's always been this way. And one way or the other, there was a dark faction. There was war. There was, rapes, murders. There was all just horrific things. Like if you look at the Holocaust, all these things, and it leaves an impression on the earth. So, and the people and, everything around it. And so, those sorts of things and those energies are being healed. And the healing is, we have so many people all over the world that are helping to send their energy. The ley lines, the people are, the healers are sending to there. And so it's just a huge birthing pains for the earth is releasing and purging. And, people are like I said, this is destruction. This is the end of the world kind of stuff. No, we're not ending the world. It's not that, it's a transformation, and people, in my personal belief, the people that I'd spoke to, some of them, well, it's the end of the world and then we'll be taken somewhere else. And I said, well, it's my belief and you can take it how you want. As with anything, I said, it's paradise is actually being brought in. It is becoming the earth. You just, we're transforming back to the crystalline energy, the human crystalline energy, and our bodies are changing. Our DNA is changing, it's all becoming way more light. And so, the things that were in the dark are in the light now for healing. And I've talked to so many people grieving about the world and the murders and more shootings and more this and more that. And I said, everything is being brought to the light to be healed, and for you to be aware. It's like, I can't remember this movie, but there was a blonde guy in, downtown New York Square, and I think it was a black and white movie. But, he was walking around and everybody was just doing whatever and going about their days. And I don't know if you remember, he got these black glasses, these special glasses, and he looks, and then if he's awakened, he sees the messages, obey, obey. And so it's just kind of like, you're not seeing the programming when you're asleep. And as you start to wake up, then you're seeing the programming that's going on. You're seeing so much more around you that we just were not aware because we're busy. We're taught that we need to do this to make a life, and we need to work 9 to 5, and we need to slave, and we need to, work ourselves to death, and you see everybody, they're going here, getting college, doing this, and, and it's just like, we're just doing the same thing for centuries with a little bit of different flair. And now, there are people that are waking, that are trying to transform and, plant more trees and save the animals and reach out to humanity and feed people and nurture and love them and bring them on the right path. So the old ways are falling away, the old paradigms, and we're being brought into the space of where a lot of people just don't know, they're in the in-between.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going on.
Yes, I do agree with that. And I just want to say it's funny you brought up the movie that you talked about because it just brought up to me, I believe, yesterday or the day before by somebody else. And yeah, and you're talking about bringing what's in the dark into the light. And I have to say I'm currently painting my songs Know What You Did in the Dark by Fall Out Boy. So that's what we've been talking about, is lighting them up, and actually there's dragons in it. So
Nice.
it's kind of funny, and I would say funny, but again, it's not a coincidence. There's really no coincidence in the synchronicities that are happening. And it is about bringing stuff in the light so that we can heal, so that we could go. A lot of us have gone through traumas, and some of us don't even know those triggers or traumas were still there. Some of us don't know that we're in that pattern. That's that breaking those karmic cycles. To help heal. And it's better to stay above that fear, I say fear mentality, because I feel like a lot of people get caught in that fear mentality, that lower vibration, and it doesn't, for me personally, it doesn't help me to manifest my space. It doesn't help me to stay positive and push that air out everywhere else to other places, resonate out. And I feel like that is what we're seeing this when you do watch the news and stuff, or when you watch what's going on in the world. It's this, people are not like accepting of, hey, this is what is actually happening in front of you. This is what has been happening. So they get this cognitive dissonance, and it's almost like it breaks them, but it's not. It's like this. We're at a point where I feel like it's just kind of snowballing more and more and more. As before in like 2020, when crystal clarity 2020, it was kind of like, okay, what is going on? What is being shown? That clarity moment. And now more people are just starting to, wait a second, we really do see this for what it is. So
Right, absolutely.
totally good.
And I know, like, a lot of the television, like, I used to watch TV all the time, but then, as I became more and more awakened, I don't spend, like, I'll watch Gordon Ramsay or something, because he's funny, and like the cooking shows and the competitions and, just different things like that. But I'm really, since I awakened, I'm really, really careful of not watching the news and not really, because it's programming. I mean, I love the television. I used to be really highly addicted, and some things, okay, I'll watch horror movies because I like to be scared. But when you go into it with watching the genre that you're watching, like horror, you're going to be scared. What's to be expected. And with the news, it's a lot of control.
Yes.
They want us to be stuck in fear and, separation, because it's always been a division of some sort, rich against poor, black against white, and they always have tried, the governments and the higher ups have always tried to keep us separated. We are one race, and so we are together. And it kind of like what, Spirit is reminding me of, like they just, I just got an image of that, I think that, what's that movie called? The Ants, I think it was, but, Bug's Life is so funny. And they're reminding me, there was like, all these ants, they were just being controlled, and they had to work this 9-to-5 job, and they had to do this and do that. And there was millions and millions of ants. And I think the thing was like a grasshopper, and there wasn't very many grasshoppers. And I'm being reminded, that with his message, he was like, wow, if they ever discovered there was more of them than us, and the programming, and this was a Disney, then they could take us all over and overthrow us. And it's just like, that's the image of happening. Yeah, I mean, that's what's happening, is like, is a lot of teaching people to conform. You have to go and get a job. You have to, get this type of job. You need to try this, do this. And so it's a lot of like control, but, there's actually more of us than there is of them. And so, and it's like, once we realize how powerful we all are, we can stop in a peaceful, loving way, all of this. We can heal ourselves and heal each other. And
come together. It's that separateness, which is, again, why we have the podcast, but also the platform that we're in, because it's a way to connect the community. So, and I know some people were hilarious coming in, and it just says, I'm not asking somebody to drop everything they're doing to come in here, but come share what you have. Right. Come build, like, think of this as like the root of the tree, and everybody's branching out. We still build and spread and get that sunlight, so that we can help each other here. And especially, like you're talking about this, it's showing what's in the dark and the light. And I feel like a lot of times, and I say this, there's like a spiritual battle almost going on for, hey, our birthrights as Earth citizens. That's what we are. I'm like, I don't see myself as American or Canadian. I just see myself as I came here and I'm born as a spirit, and I'm here on this earth, and my body's connected to symbiotically with the earth. So that's what I'm fighting for, instead of having somebody else tell me how to live or what to put in your body. So again, and there's still some of those rules and laws going on. But I feel the more of us that stand up, because we do outnumber them, the more of us can actually just say, no, this is enough.
Absolutely. It's 100%. I mean, a lot of people don't realize the power that they have, the abilities that they have, because, they don't want you to wake up. They don't want you, because, just one person that turns the light on themselves and starts healing and doing the work and healing the ancestors and healing themselves, I mean, that's going to make a tremendous ripple effect on the earth. It's going to heal that portion of where they're at. And it's going to send out like light waves to other people. And they're like, huh, what's this? And, people, we're connected. Like the trees have a network. They're connected to each other. They know when there's danger. They send out signals. They know when and they share a whole ecosystem with each other. And they're all interconnected. And it's like, that's how we are too. And,
Yep.
there's just people, right? There's the fear and the loss and the not belonging and not being heard. A lot of the violence and the things that's going on, I can't say all of it, but a lot of it that I've, personally heard about, spoke with, and it's because they were not heard and it got to that level.
Yeah.
Yes. That they felt like there was no other option. And, not saying what they did was right because, when you're harming someone else, it's not okay.
Right.
Absolutely not. But just, having systems in place where people can feel that they have a voice, that they're, because it's a systematic failure of society where they have everyone that they say you need to either be a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, get this job, go to school, go to college or get a trade. And, you have societies measuring on what is success and how to be successful. But what about the people that don't fit into those molds?
Right.
A lot of those people are lost and need help, become suicidal. But what they are is they woke up.
Yes.
They know they don't know what's going on, but they know they're not the same from anybody else. I knew that growing up that, I would go hang out at my friend's parents' house with them and have sleepovers, and they would just talk about normal stuff. And I'm like, what, do you guys see ghosts? Like, what? That's weird. Oh, okay. I was just wondering, and then just kind of like let that go. But for us, that was regular. We did this. I learned how to protect myself at a young age, like the smudging, the saging, when your soul travels, how to protect yourself at night, calling in the archangels. I learned so many things from so many teachers, and we had, Native American healers and things, and like the shamans and just, elders coming through teaching me. And I've had experiences with Irish, the lady that said she was the queen of the fairies. Like, wow. So I've met so many different people in so many different ways and learned so many different things. And, everybody's like, you're like almost 47. Like, why are you always trying to like keep doing something, with the energies and like keep trying to learn new things? I said, because it's something else is always out there. And I keep it to keep upgrading and going, because the more that I know and I can integrate into myself, then that's a way that I can help somebody else.
Yes.
And
call it a school of life.
Mm-hmm.
You're always learning. The moment you take your first breath, you're here learning, you're here observing, you're here growing. So don't limit yourself.
Oh, right. And what they teach you kind of like and I even learned this, they try to teach you in a timeline sort of way. It's a straight line from birth to death. But that's not how life is.
No.
Life is a spiral, and you're learning, like you said, you're on that spiral forever until you're gone, and then you do it again up high. So you're always learning, no matter where you are, and integrating and helping. I mean, when you wake up, you're gonna and you work on yourself and start practicing. See if you have psychic abilities. See if you can heal people through sound. See if you've got this extraordinary pool with the animals that understand you. And you can communicate with them. And because when you wake up, you have gifts that are specific to you that nobody else has. And so it's really trying to hone in and find those gifts as well. Start trying everything.
I agree. All right, so I'll wrap this up because we've been going for 50 some minutes. Is there anything else that you'd like your listeners out there to know? Anybody who's awakening, anybody who's not awakened, anything about you?
Just know that you're not alone. When you're awakening and you're on your path, you're not alone. Just find your tribe, find your people. You may not find it in your family, but that's okay. Trust yourself, believe the voices that you hear, the guidance. believe, have faith, trust yourself, trust the message, and just really um, reach out. And for me, like I said, if you need any help, I have over 20 years experience with traumas, so all kinds of traumas. So I made the one important thing. People have asked me, that's been a common theme that I'll share. They were like, I went through all this trauma, and I don't want to mention the traumas because I don't want to trigger anybody, but they said they were very upset, and I did some like mini coaching with them, and they were like, every common like theme that I had, why did I go through this trauma? Why was I such a bad person that this horrific stuff happened to me and it hasn't stopped, and I don't understand, and I really try to be a good person, and all this stuff happened. And I said to them, I was like, you're not a bad person. These are experiences that you had. And once we can get you to the point where you're healed, you're going to see that a new way, because everybody, it's not what's, happened then.
Yeah.
So basically, I guess in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that once you're on the other side of healing, you can understand that all of those things, no matter how horrific and how horrible, happened to you for a reason. So, and I really believe that you could help someone else as only you could. Because let's say there's, someone who was in a school explosion, the building exploded, or a hurricane hit it and you were in there, a school shooting, those situations not everyone has experienced. So we can have compassion and we can have love for that situation and walk them through healing. But when you have someone who's gone through that experience as well, that they understand even more ways to help you heal.
Yes.
And having that connection, like you can talk to them and say, I did this too. So I find that the best way when I became healed to look at everything is, hey, I experienced all this horrific trauma, but if I can save one person from going through this or help them through what they're going through, then it was all worth it.
Yeah. Thank you. And I do look forward to future podcasts or future talks with you, and helping to co-create, to kind of like get your business going and stuff like that. I find it really awesome. And you're always welcome into Discord, or anybody else that you'd like to come into Discord. So, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right.